Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. San Francisco Police Chief Gregory Suhr has been ousted following weeks of protest and hunger strikes demanding his resignation over police killings in the city. Mayor Edwin Lee announced he was asking for Suhr's resignation Thursday, hours after a police officer shot and killed an unarmed African-American woman in a car in the Bayview district, the same neighborhood where officers shot and killed Mario Woods in December.
These officer-involved shootings, justified or not, have forced our city to open its eyes to questions of when and how police use lethal force. That's why I have asked Chief Suhr for his resignation. And in the best interest of the city that he loves so much, he tendered his resignation early today. Despite the political rhetoric of the past few weeks, I have nothing but profound admiration for Greg. He's a true public servant, and he'll always have respect.
His ouster comes after activists known as the Frisco Five held a more than two-week hunger strike demanding the police chief's departure. On Thursday, the Frisco Five issued a statement which was read aloud at a gathering outside City Hall.
The people made this happen. We have won this battle, but the war is not over. It is sad that 22 people had to lose their lives at the hands of SFPD. We want the officers involved in these shootings charged with murder. We demand an immediate meeting with the interim chief to discuss real reform created by the community.
Gregory Suhr is the third police chief of a major U.S. city to be ousted within the last year amidst nationwide protests demanding racial justice and an end to police brutality. Baltimore's police commissioner, Anthony Batts, was fired last July following the death of Freddie Gray due to injuries sustained in police custody, while Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy was ousted in December following the release of the video showing the police killing of Laquan McDonald, who was shot 16 times by Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke. The Egyptian military says it's found debris from Egypt Air Flight 804, which crashed Thursday en route from Paris to Cairo. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the crash. The Egyptian civil aviation minister has said terrorism was a more likely cause than technical failure. The French parliament voted to extend France's state of emergency for another 2 months. The emergency measures were approved following the November 13th attacks in Paris, giving President François Hollande a sweeping expansion of state powers, including measures that permit police raids without a warrant. Parliament member André Chassaigne spoke out against the extension of the emergency measures.
People
have been called into question about things that have nothing to do with the fight against terrorism. The executive power lets itself continue dangerously enforcing the state of emergency for measures that are destroying freedom. What's more of a means to an end other than a fight against terrorism?
In Japan, a U.S. military contractor and former Marine has confessed to having dumped the body of a 20-year-old Japanese woman in a forest on the island of Okinawa, which is home to U.S. military bases. 32-year-old Marine Kenneth Shinzato was arrested Thursday. He has not confessed to killing the woman who disappeared last month. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe spoke out.
I feel a strong anger. I believe it's a regrettable situation. I am at a loss of words when I think of her family.
Okinawa residents have long protested the presence of 50,000 U.S. troops on the island, saying they bring crime and pollution. The Israeli defense minister, Moshe Ya'alon, has resigned, saying, quote, I fought with all my might against manifestations of extremism, violence and racism in Israeli society. His resignation comes only days after Ya'alon's deputy chief of staff, Major General Yair Golan, compared modern-day Israel to, quote, nauseating trends, unquote, in Nazi-era Germany. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now offered the position of defense minister to the right-wing ultra-nationalist politician Avigdor Lieberman. Lieberman's considered to be one of the most hawkish politicians in Israel. Meanwhile, a Palestinian journalist has returned home to the West Bank after holding a 94-day hunger strike to protest his indefinite detention by Israel. Journalist Mohammed Al-Kik is a reporter for the Saudi news agency Al-Majid TV network. He was accused of being involved with Hamas. His wife, Faya Shalash, spoke upon his release.
It is a feeling of happiness that cannot be described on this historic day. We thought that Mohammed might die during the hunger strike, but now all that is just a memory.
Here in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau continues to apologize for elbowing MP Ruth Ellen Brosseau while on the floor of Canada's Parliament. The elbowing came as Trudeau was attempting to pull a Conservative lawmaker toward his seat so the Parliament could begin a vote on assisted dying. In the process, Trudeau elbowed the female lawmaker, sparking outrage from Conservatives. Meanwhile, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has approved a genetically modified salmon for sale as food. It's the first genetically modified animal approved in Canada. Aqua Advantage salmon was developed by Massachusetts-based Aqua Bounty Technologies. They grow twice as fast as natural salmon. In India, a severe heat wave has shattered the national benchmark for the hottest day on record as the temperature in the city of Phalodi topped a staggering 123 degrees Fahrenheit. Several hundred people have died so far from the extreme temperatures across India. Increasingly deadly heat waves have been linked to climate change. A new report by Human Rights Watch has found thousands of U.S. service members were unfairly discharged from the military after reporting a rape or sexual assault. Many of the survivors received other than honorable discharges that prevented them from receiving benefits. Others were discharged with diagnoses of, quote, personality disorders. One sexual assault survivor spoke out.
I was 18 years old, went into military intelligence, and went to the Marine Corps ball where I was sexually assaulted. After reporting the rape, my entire career in the military went from excelling and on an extremely promising path to ultimately being discharged with a personality disorder.
Immigration lawyers are once again suing the Obama administration over its practice of immigrant family detention, arguing the government is violating a federal judge's ruling prohibiting children from being detained for extended periods of time in jail-like facilities. This comes as ICE is reportedly preparing to launch a month-long campaign of raids aimed at rounding up and deporting undocumented Central American mothers and children. On Wednesday, dozens of mothers detained in the South Texas Family Residential Center wrote a letter to the director of ICE saying, quote, we did not leave our countries to live a picture-perfect life in the United States. We fled so that we would not be killed. We came seeking asylum, as is our right, and instead have been subjected to a new hell of detention, they wrote. Imprisoned Army whistleblower Chelsea Manning has formally appealed her conviction and imprisonment, arguing her 35-year prison sentence is, quote, grossly unfair and unprecedented. Her appeal argues, quote, no whistleblower in American history has been sentenced this harshly. In 2013, Manning was convicted of passing hundreds of thousands of documents to WikiLeaks. The Canadian government is pledging to examine its own practice of detaining asylum seekers after a string of deaths inside detention centres. One refugee died on Saturday at Edmonton Remand Centre, while two other refugees died while in the custody of the Canada Border Services Agency this spring in Ontario. The Oklahoma Senate has passed a bill that makes performing an abortion a felony punishable by up to 3 years in prison. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin has not said whether she will sign the bill. Pro-choice groups say the bill is unconstitutional and will not stand up to a legal challenge. In Oregon, residents of Hood River County have voted to block Nestle Waters from building a $50 million bottling plant that would have sucked 100 million gallons of water out of Oxbow Springs each year. The ballot initiative, which was passed Tuesday, bans all large water bottling operations in the county. In Mexico, parents of the 43 students who disappeared in September 2014 protested outside the Foreign Ministry Thursday, demanding experts from the Inter-American Human Rights Commission return to Mexico and reopen their investigation. The experts have accused the Mexican government of stonewalling their probe. Meanwhile, in New York City, Antonio Tizapa, father of one of the missing students, met with the UN Special Rapporteur on the rights of indigenous peoples, Victoria Talley-Corpuz, and urged her to investigate his son's disappearance. Tizapa spoke out after the meeting.
La relatora, yo le pregunté, que...
I asked the rapporteur about the invitation we proposed last year, and she said she wrote to the Mexican government asking to be invited to investigate, but she didn't receive an answer. Now she's going to ask again, and we hope that she will get an answer. We hope the Mexican government will open its doors to her, and we especially hope she goes to Ayotzinapa to see what the Mexican government has done to us.
In Florida, a 32-year-old African-American transgender woman was murdered Sunday in a parking lot. Mercedes Successful was an active member of the LGBT community in Haines City. She represented Jamaica, where she was born, in the 2014 Gay Caribbean USA pageant. And CBS News legend Morley Safer has died at the age of 84. Safer was the longest-serving correspondent in 60 Minutes history, filing a total of 919 stories over his 46 years. As a young reporter, he filed one of the most significant stories of the Vietnam War when he reported on U.S. Marines torching the village of Cam Ranh. The story changed the way the Vietnam War was reported. He received death threats after it was aired. Morley Safer died Thursday at his home in Manhattan. He was born here in Toronto, Canada. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're on the road in Toronto, Canada, broadcasting from the studios of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC.